welcome back to my channel, The Grim Reader. I'm Kathy Grimm, and this is my channel. And I'm going to give you my update for reading throughout the past week and sort of decisions I've made regarding my reading. And I just kind of had a mini check of what I said last week to refresh my memory. And so I've decided to not continue reading the Margaret Young, the Debs biography, because I know it's going to be good, but I just know I can't handle it right now. So I'm kind of putting that one aside, so for another time. And I finished, because I was mainly listening to it, although I would dip in now and then, to Far from the Madding Crowd, my first Victober read. My second Hardy. I did read Tess a long time ago. So let me share my thoughts on this novel. I was a little disappointed. I thought it would be great, and there are passages of great beauty in here. Like, I especially like his depiction of just weather phenomenon. I'm kind of down for that anyway. And when someone does it really well and maybe connects it to certain elements of the plot, like thunderstorms or whatever, and I like that. And no, I'm trying to gather my thoughts, and once again I have to preface this with the fact that I'm so busy and so won't have time to edit much, so cut out all the ums and ahs. So let me just dive right into it as I have done. So I think I was trying to formulate my thoughts as to why it's only 4 stars from me, which, you know, I kind of am pretty generous with my 5 stars. So even though I did think it was good, what did I not like about it? So basically, what I didn't like the ending that much. I thought towards the end it got sort of rushed and weird, and the plot stuff kind of became a little contrived almost, even the actual ending. I wasn't sort of, as opposed to someone like Trollope, who I'll get into in a minute, where you kind of get more and more excited and interested. It kind of has a slow build, but it's always on an upward trajectory with me with Trollope. And here, it just sort of, I almost lost interest. I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but it just didn't come together it didn't come together completely. And I think I was sort of thinking more and more about it. I don't think I really was invested enough in all the characters. They were all interesting, and I was sort of excited or intrigued to see where he would go with them, but he never went into great depth with them, or not enough for me. And just because I have been reading a lot of Trollope, that's who I'm thinking of while I read this. And Trollope is just, compared to this Hardy at least, so good at making you, he really wants to get in so that you understand where people are coming. You understand why they act the way they do. And on a sort of superficial level, you had that with these characters in here. So it's basically one main woman character who's basically the main character in a certain sense, and her name is Bathsheba. And she has a sort of interesting trajectory in terms of upward and downward and money-wise. But it all takes place in this rural farming landscape of Wessex, so southern England, I gather. And so, for example, her character, I wanted more of her interiority. I really didn't. We see her from the outside, and she's sort of described as a beautiful woman. And she's also kind of characterized as somewhat vain and interested or almost dependent on admiration from men, which of course I wasn't really that okay with. I actually didn't really like his pronouncements on women. He had this way of generalizing. Now, not to say that Trollope doesn't also sometimes make you cringe a little bit, but for reasons that maybe we'll get into later on, I think he's better at it. I think he's better. So just to sort of, why not just say it now, the difference I sense with Trollope is that he's actually very interested, and he really is admiring and understanding of women to a certain degree. Whereas Hardy, at least the way he depicted Bathsheba, it's always sort of judging and from an outside point of view, and also somewhat negative. And she's an interesting character. It's almost like she was interesting, but I never really found out about her motives enough. I never really understood why she was doing what she was doing, except from she's this way point of view. And maybe it's because there's not as much dialogue. It's more third person. I don't know. I haven't quite come to a conclusion. so I was a little disappointed. And it's also like it's a novel about rural England and sort of the farming classes. So there's a lot of sort of scenes of the farming folk talking and drinking and having a good time, and that was all quite well done. But overall, especially because thought the ending was a little bit not as satisfying, I just kind of gave it 4 stars and not 5. So not a complete success, and I'm sort of wary or hesitant as to where to go next with Hardy, if anywhere. And on the Discord, I remember there were people saying that Hardy's is better when you're younger, and Trollop is better when you're older. And maybe it's just that too. Maybe I'm just too old for Hardy. I don't know. Maybe it's sort of saying something like when you're younger, you don't care as much about the intricacies and the nuances, and you're also, I don't know, you want the great passions. And there was sort of that here. There's one character in here who I really wanted more. His trajectory and his arc was a little bit hard to understand, how he went from one thing to where he went. I am being deliberately vague because of spoiling, but it's as if I never quite like psychologically understood why are these people doing these things, and that's what you get with some other people. And yeah, so not a complete success, but that's okay. I'm very glad I read it and mainly listened to it, but I also dipped into this. So that's that. And then what next? I dipped into a few things, but they didn't stick. I am very busy, so I kind of don't have a lot of leisure to sort of read a chapter here or there. I'm just kind of so busy with work. I think I'm getting, so last week I remember as I looked at my sort of little video, I talked about being very overwrought and in a kind of mentally fragile place, and I'm not there anymore. I'm much more just get through it, just work hard, just get through it, and then I haven't been sick, so I haven't gotten sick. Like last semester I got sick a lot. So as we say in German, toi toi toi, let's press out. In German you press your thumbs and cross your fingers that I don't get sick. And I am thinking more of my trip, which is not until December, but still. So I'm definitely going to get the vaccination for the trip. So the COVID and maybe some other ones too, but yeah. So yeah, I'm doing better there, even though I am. And it's so funny, like this week we have a fall break, but is it an actual break when it's only one day? We all have Friday off this week. And for me, Friday off means I get to grade midterm exams and actual papers this time. So a bunch of papers. So it's not really going to be off. It'll be off from teaching, but I'll still be very busy. And I'm behind with grading. But for me, I have to at some point just stop working and just get ready. I can't just work nonstop and then just sleep a few hours. That's how I would get sick, physically and mentally, perhaps. So I won't do that. So I just kind of grade when I can, and that's okay. I just tell my students, you'll have to wait. I'm also, I think, a slow grader because I am kind of pedantic about everything, including grading. But I don't know. I cannot change my ways. Okay, back to the reading. So one of the things I started, because it's also mainly a listen, but I'm going to dip into it the way I do. The listens allow me to read more, and that's okay. I went back to Palliser. I fell back into the Trollop, and I'm so happy I did. And so specifically the Palliser novels, they are just so enjoyable. I can already tell I'm probably going to like this better than I liked The Way We Live Now. And I think one of the main reasons is I really do like serials. I really like reacquainting myself with the same people, the same group of people. And coming back to Phineas, who I really did like in Phineas Finn, he's such a fully fleshed character. He's not perfect, but he's good enough. He's basically a good person, but he's ambitious. He's kind of a little bit weird with women. He's sort of, and he's coming to terms with the fact that he doesn't really like his life in Ireland, and he wants to be a parliamentarian and in Parliament, and not really because he's so interested in the work, but just because he likes the atmosphere and the feeling of being. He's a little bit sort of, he wants a career to be recognized. It's not completely from the bottom of his heart because he wants to do good for the world. And anyway, I'm just at the beginning of it, and I'm already kind of thinking this will be a nice listen, and I'm glad I'm doing it. And so I would suggest someone, oh yes, by the way, I'm sorry, I'm very all over the place, but I hope you're okay with that. I feel really bad that I haven't been able to comment back to everyone's comments, and I've been really enjoying reading people's comments. Dora's buying a Hobonichi, that's great. And everyone, and new people coming in. So apologies for not being able to write back. That's why I always do the thumbs up and the heart, just so you know that I saw it and I appreciate your comments. And at some point when I have time, I will go in and I go back to when the last time was when I was able to comment, and I check when that was, and I try and just write something to most people, because that's what brings me joy, you know, and I wish I could do that. That's the one thing I should put on my list of, I have lists of things to do. I'll put that on there too. So apologies for not being able to keep up as much as I would like. And just the same thing is I haven't been able to watch a lot either. I watched Marilyn Mendoza's story about her travel issues, which was, yeah, traveling is rough these days. So anyway, let me get back to what else I'm reading. So this is my main read, and then so I'm still having lots of issues with my Kindle. I decorated it because I'm pretending to be a teenager. I like my stickers. They're very Victober. And I have this pop thing, but I'm not even sure if I put it in the right place for reading. It's kind of okay. I'm still getting used to this. I'm still not that down with it. But I was sort of scrounging around for a book, and I was on the Victober Discord that I like to dip into because it's fun. And Kate from, Kate Howe, I think Kate Reads, one of the wonderful hosts of Victober, just mentioned something about reading a long novel by Charlotte Young. And the novel that she's reading it's called The Pillars of the House, and it's apparently really long. I don't even know how long it is. And so I checked, and then on the Kindle Unlimited, I could get it for free. So I did. So I started to read The Pillars of the House, a very long family saga by Charlotte Young. I think you'd say Young, even though it's Yonge. My first Charlotte Young. And so I think I'm going to like it. I think, so sometimes I do like judgy, bourgeois, like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, pretty sort of, in terms of goody. I'm okay with it if I like the writing. And I have a feeling I'm going to like the writing. And I want to do more research on Young. For example, even right now before I did the video, so the subtitle of this strange novel is, well, strange just because it's long and not many people read it. I forget what it was. Under Road. It has a strange subtitle, sorry. I need to do research on what it actually means. I'm trying to see if I can find it quickly, but I probably won't be able to find it unless I can see. I'm not that good with the Kindle. I want the cover, but it may not say it on this cover because it's just such a cheap book. Yeah, no, I won't bother with it. Anyway, I want to find out more about her. I do remember reading how she was very prolific and also very widely read in the 19th century. She's one of the sort of people don't read her much anymore. And she wrote a lot of stuff, including some historical fiction. So I'm gonna continue with, I'm really just at the beginning, and I'm still having issues with the book, with the Kindle, because I'm sort of obsessively wanting to go back and find things. And one thing that's helping me is this stupid view. Well, it's very tiny print, but when you go and see numerous pages at once, and then you can sort of figure out what's going on. Like I had to go back and read the beginning because I wasn't quite sure of all the people, and I know that this has a lot of people in it, so knowing me, there will be lists of characters and how they all connect. Like I'll just make a list just because that's how I kind of keep abreast of what's going on. And one thing about Young from her biography that I need to do more research on, I've done a little bit of research. I have her letters here, and it connects to my own family stuff again. So I had a picture on Instagram of the three books, the three Victorian books that, are from that era. And one of them is this strange, so this is just a big reprint, and it's huge font because it's a reprint from an old text. So it's huge, which is good for me. And it was written by my so I'm trying to think what she was. I think she was this, so I know that her mother was the sister of my great-great-grandmother. So her mother was Louisa Lane Clark, and she's the seaweed lady, as I like to call her. She's the one who wrote about seaweeds, and also kind of wrote a book about microscopy. And so now I'm in my ancestry, and I'm going to look up this other person. What's her name? Theodora. Theodora is really, really interesting. I mean, just because she's an interesting person. Theodora Louisa Lane Clark. I don't know what the M stands for. No one seems to. The M's there sometimes, and no, it doesn't come up anywhere in any of the documents I found what it stands for. It's almost as if it was just M. I don't know, or someone just made it up. Theodora Louisa Lane Clark. My sister Louisa was probably named after her. Well, her mother, who was Louisa Lane. And married Mr. Clark, who was a clergyman. Anyway, Louisa was Theodora, so her daughter was Theodora, 1851 to 1906. She's her first cousin 3 times removed. And because her mother was my second great grand aunt. And they're all part of these people that were from Guernsey, so in the Channel Islands. And what's fascinating to me about Theodora is I found some documents, and maybe I should just abbreviate this and do a longer video at some point. Anyway, she, of course, was raised Protestant. There were also, and her mother married a Protestant clergyman. But apparently, on her own, when she was quite young, she decided to convert to Catholicism. And she became a sort of almost like a Catholic activist. She wrote a ton of stuff, articles for Catholic publications. And she married a pretty well-connected Irishman, Bartholomew or Bartle Teeling. And the Teelings is a a very famous Irish family. And then Bartholomew, her husband, he ends up doing all kinds of things with the Pope. He was a papal zoave, which I can explain that, when I do another video. Anyway, so basically kind of followed that trajectory of becoming Catholic, marrying a Catholic, having 7 children, by the way, writing a ton of stuff, including novels. And this is her novel that she wrote. She's not definitely, she's not a household name at all. I mean, even Charlotte Young's not that much of Young's much more well-known, but Theodora isn't well-known. But I still, since she published this work and she is my relative, I thought, what the heck? And it is kind of Catholic, pro-Catholic. It takes place in Italy, I think. I started reading it, and I want to read it and find out how awful it is. Is it really awful, or is it kind of entertainingly awful? Is it just really awful? I'm assuming it's not going to be good, but it might be okay. And, maybe it will be sort of, I don't care if it's sort of romantic and silly, as long as it's readable. So when I can settle down, like when I'm sort of doing my jobs and stuff, I just want to read things that I feel safe with. Like The Young's going to be fine, even though it's, long. I don't care about long. And of course, Trollope's just like comfort for me. That's just comfort read. I feel very, very safe in his hands. But with something like this, which might be a little schlocky, I want to be a little fresh for it and just try it one day. I'll just dip into it and see how it goes. So I will report back on Theodora Lane Clark's novel, Roman Violets and Where They Blossom. And I think that's sort of like a metaphor for these children in the novel. I don't know. Anyway, so those are my plans. And I think that's it. Yes, I abbreviated the stuff about Theodora because, it could go on and on. And her mother too, whose book about seaweeds, I've dipped into it and I've read little bits here and there, but I'm just not really a seaweed person. So it's more an artifact that I have in my collection, but I'm not really going to read it. And there was something else. There was a nonfiction thing I was thinking of dipping into for... Oh, yes. It's another Trollope. On the YouTubes, I think, and this is just completely at the end here, I think you can find sort of a Libra box, it's like where people just read something for you of his work about Cicero, the life of Cicero. And I started listening to it not recently, and it was actually really good. It was well read by someone, and so that's sort of something that, and for reasons that I'll get into another time, I'm a little bit interested in Cicero. Why am I interested in Cicero? Here we go. The Life of Cicero, Volume 1, Anthony Trollope, and it's read by Philippa Part, and there are comments on it, LibriVox recording, about how she does such a good job of it. And of course it's in his voice. So it's Trollope telling us about Cicero, so you kind of like just kind of go with it, and I think that might be something fun to listen to too. It's a full audiobook in 2 parts, I guess. Yeah, this is 10 hours long. Yeah, so it's really just like an audiobook. I'd have to check and see if I can find it on Audible for free too. But she does a good job of reading it. So yeah. So there's a nonfiction pick if anyone is interested in Cicero, read by The Life of Cicero, written by Trollope and read on this video. That's all I have. I need to get ready for bed. It's going to be another long week, even with the day off, I'm going to be busy because I'm going to be grading. Such is the life of a teaching professor. I hope everyone's doing well, and I really hope to get to your comments soon. Thank you all for watching. Hello, new subscribers. Just, glad you're here, and comment away and ask me questions. And I will see you all next week. Bye.